Hey friends, welcome back to Digitalk. In this session, we are going to cover the introduction to WebLogic server. Okay, and along with that, we will cover the difference between your web server, and then along with that, we have two categories. One is for lightweight application server and enterprise application servers. Okay, so I'm sure you heard about the Apache web server, Nginx, your Tomcat, WebLogic, JBoss, WebSphere, right? So there are multiple servers are available in the market. Okay, some are the open source, some are the proprietary software that is specifically from some organizations that you can purchase, okay, by giving some fees for the license. Okay, but many times what I saw that a lot of engineers get confused between your web server and application servers. And specifically in application server, we have two categories. That one is a lightweight application server, and second is called the enterprise application server. So there are a lot of confusions around the web server, application servers, lightweight application servers, enterprise application servers. Okay, so I'm going to cover that complete comparison in this session. What exactly is a web server, and what is the lightweight application server, enterprise application server, and what exactly is the difference between them in terms of the functionality, okay, that bifurcate all of these servers from each other. Okay, so I have posted a detailed session earlier as well, okay, which the link that you can get in the description of this session of this video. Okay, so let me begin with the introduction to WebLogic server. So what exactly is a WebLogic application server? It is very clear from the name as well. It is an application server. That means we deploy some applications on the server. And why we deploy the applications on the server? Because it should be accessible to the end users, right? So we have developed some application specifically purpose for some users, so the users can access the applications for the business functionalities, to execute the business functionalities, right? So that means it is an application server where we deploy our applications. And now WebLogic is completely a Java based enterprise application server. Okay, so we'll come to the enterprise part later. But you can understand as of now, it is a Java based application server. That means WebLogic is completely built on the Java. Okay, so it is a completely Java built application server, so you can deploy the applications that has been developed in the Java, okay, in the WebLogic application server, right? So what we have learned about the WebLogic application server, it is a server where we deploy the applications. Second, it is completely built on the Java. Okay, so we deploy the Java based applications on the application server or on the WebLogic application server, right? So let me write it here as well, so you get the complete clarity. Okay, when we talk about the WebLogic application server, okay, so let me increase the font. Okay, so when we say about the WebLogic application server, okay, it's a Java based enterprise application server. Okay, so it's a, let me do it correctly. Okay, it's a Java based enterprise application server, right? So that means it is completely built on the Java, right? So that means you can deploy applications built in Java. Okay, so now again in Java we have a simple Java, or we can say we also call it as a basic Java, and then we have a advanced Java, right? So when we talk about the basic Java, okay, so you can say as a servlets, okay, and sorry, servlets, and then you have the JSPs, etc. And when we talk about the advanced Java, you can consider the EJBs, enterprise Java beans, right? So that means in your WebLogic application server, which is a Java based enterprise application server, okay, we deploy the applications which is built in Java, okay, and the applications can be a simple or a basic Java built in your basic Java, or maybe the application has been built in your advanced Java, which is the enterprise Java beans. Okay, so this is the very basic introduction to your WebLogic server, and why we deploy the application, so that it should be accessible to the outer world. So what does it mean? End users can able to access the applications that we have deployed on the WebLogic application server. Right. So now, apart from that, we have a web server as well. We have a lightweight application server as well. We have an enterprise application where WebLogic is categorized as an enterprise application server. Right. So we can deploy the application on web server as well. We can deploy it on the lightweight application server as well. Right. So where is the difference exactly between the WebLogic application servers and your web servers and some other lightweight application servers? So you will get a clarity on that. But once you have a complete understanding of what exactly is a web server, what is a lightweight application server, and what exactly is an enterprise application server, and what is the difference between them. Okay, so now let me give you a complete difference between all these. Okay, so let us begin with the web server. So let me write it here. It is a web server. Okay, and along with that, let me take the category of lightweight application server. Okay, and let me correct the spelling. It's a lightweight application server. Okay, and let me take it here. Okay, and along with that, we have third category, which is as a enterprise application and then server. So we have these three different categories. Okay, so you have to understand between all these three what exactly is a web server, what exactly is a lightweight application server, and what exactly is an enterprise application server. And after that, you can able to understand completely what all are the use cases where we can go for the web server, where we can go for the lightweight application servers, and where we can go for the enterprise application servers. Okay, so web server, the first is web server. Okay, so the primary purpose of web server is to serve only the static contents. So now what exactly is static contents? So there are multiple purpose of web server. Okay, I will tell you on all these things, all the purpose of that. The first thing is it serve as a server for the static contents. Now what exactly is static contents? You have some HTML files, you have CSS, and then you have images, you have some video clips, you have some audio files. Okay, so all these are categorized as a static contents. Right, so for example, when we create the HTML page, then we write a fixed syntax or fixed content in the HTML pages. Okay, and similarly we have a CSS, similarly we have images, video clips, audio files. So all these are the static contents. That means whenever we access any of the website which has all these components, it will just render on the website based on the content that we have in our file system. Right, so all the contents will be rendered on the web page based on the content that we have saved on our file system in all these files, HTML files, CSS files, images, video clips, and audio files. That means though there is no dynamic functionality going to be executed when we are going to access our application. Okay, I will give you a small example. For example, maybe you are going to log into your Facebook account. Okay, once you log into your Facebook account, initially you get a web page, okay, which contain the multiple images, multiple logos, okay, and then certain text boxes. And when you enter your username and password, okay, it get authenticated in the backend servers of the Facebook. Right, so here we don't have a such kind of a mechanism where we are giving any input for any kind of a content which is going to be executed at the server end for the authentication. Okay, these are the just static contents. For example, as I said, when we access the Facebook website, there are a lot of contents rendered on the web page which contain the logo of the Facebook. There are a lot of text, there are a lot of text boxes, and then there are multiple contents, right? So those are the static contents. Whatever has been saved in the file system, it is getting rendered on your web page. Okay, and there is no dynamic processing happening apart from that one. Right, so these are the categorized as your static contents. Right, so now to serve the static contents, for example, if you have a website, for example, I have a website of some news agency. Okay, so for news agency, okay, you will have a certain kind of a news that you need to flash on your website. Along with that, you may have a certain images, you may have a certain video clips, audio files that you need to play on your website. Okay, but all this content are categorized as a static contents. Whatever you have saved in your file system, it is exactly going to be rendered on your web page. Okay, apart from that, there is no dynamic execution going to be happen in your website. Right, so this is the first purpose, web server. So if you have a website that contain your static contents, Okay, then you use the web server. So now you will get a more clarity on this one once we will continue with the discussion on the lightweight application server and enterprise application server. So one will see what is the difference between all of this, then you will understand it properly, what exactly is the meaning of static content if you are still confused on that one. Okay, now apart from that, we use it for, as a reverse proxy as well. Okay, so what is the meaning of reverse proxy? In your organization, we have a multiple servers where the applications are running, okay, for the high availability, right? So we need a front end server to load balance the request between the backend application servers. So what does it mean? Suppose this is your web server and these are your application servers where your applications are running, right? So now whenever client access this your website, the client will first land it on your web server. Okay, and from here what you need to do, you need to load balance the request to the backend application servers like this one. So here I have drawn only two. There could be multiple based on your business and your architecture and your environment. There could be multiple backend application servers. Okay, so from what we are doing with the web server here, this web server is acting as a reverse proxy which is sending the request to the backend servers, right? So this is called reverse proxy. So this is the second use case of your you can say of your web server. Now third case is SSL termination. SSL termination. Okay, so that means in our environment we do the configuration of SSLs as well, right? For the security purpose for our website, so that we can access the website with the help of HTTPS. Okay, and in that way your content, the connection with the website will get secure. Your content will be encrypted. Okay, so you can do the termination of SSL at the web server level as well. So what does it mean? Again, I will go the same model. This is your web server, and you have a backend application servers. Okay, your clients are connecting to your web server, and from here you are doing the load balancing to the backend servers where your web server is acting as a reverse proxy, right? So what you can do the configuration of SSL here as well at the web server. Okay, so once you will do the SSL configuration at your web server level, then you don't need to configure the SSL for the application server. There could be a certain requirement, okay, where your end-to-end flow is need to be in the SSL. For that you may have to go for the SSL configuration for the backend servers as well. But most of the time when we configure the SSL at the web server level, then we do not do the configuration of the SSL at the backend application server levels. Okay, so this is the third use case of your web server where we are using it as a SSL terminator. Now the fourth use case is we use it as a for the security purpose as well. Now what is the meaning of security purpose? Let me go back and draw the same again, architecture again. Okay, okay. So this is my web server. This is my backend application servers. Clients are connecting to my web server, and then requests are getting processed by the backend application servers in by the load balancing to the multiple application servers, whatever we on the backend. Okay, so now what happened? These are the application servers where our applications are running. Okay, so because these are the application servers and no one want to expose the code or the application to the outer world, specifically when your clients are connecting from the internet. So what happened in that case? We have a firewall between your application servers and the web servers. So that means if your clients are connecting from the outer world and they wanted to connect to access your application which is running on the application server inside the internet in your organization, so there is a firewall in between your web server and application servers. Okay, so client can reach to the web server which is just acting as a reverse proxy. You don't have any code or anything, business logic is sitting here in the web server. It is just acting as a reverse proxy, and from here the requests are going to backend application servers, and these application servers are protected inside your intranet along with using the firewalls, right? So this is the another you can say use case of your web server where we use it as a for the security purpose, right? So let me delete it. Okay, so we have learned about the four use cases. The one, what is web server? It is used for serving the static contents. Okay, And static contents are HTML, CSS, images, video clips, and audio files. Second, we can use it as a reverse proxy to divert or forward the request to the backend application servers. Third, we can use as a SSL terminator, okay, where we can configure the SSL at the web server level, so we don't need to configure the SSL at the backend level. And the fourth is for the security purpose. So as I said, we have the application servers are running inside the intranet. No one want to expose your application server to the outer world, so you can have a firewall between your web server and then your application servers, and then you can divert the request from your web server to your application servers. Okay, you don't have any code is running on your web server. Now, what are the few examples of web server? We have information, or we know about the Apache web server. Okay, mostly use application servers. And second is Nginx. So these are the two leading web servers. Along with that, you have Microsoft IAS as well. Okay, MS ISS. IAS, sorry. Right. So these are the application servers. So that means if you know about what is application Apache web server or Nginx or MSIS, okay, then you know we use it to serve the static contents as a reverse proxy, as a SSL terminator, and along with that we can use it for the security purpose. Right, but it has a limitation. What has a limitation? It can't execute the dynamic contents. So now what exactly dynamic content that I'm going to explain you here. So lightweight application server. So what exactly is a lightweight application server? Now first let me give you example of that. I'm sure you heard about the Tomcat, maybe about the Jetty, and maybe about the Undertow. Maybe if you have not heard about the Jetty and Undertow, then you should have aware about that, the Tomcat. What exactly is a Tomcat? So Tomcat is a lightweight application server. Okay, it's not a web server. Okay, it's a lightweight application server. Now why we called it as a lightweight application server? That it depend on the kind of a functionalities it can execute. Now what all functionalities it can execute, let me differentiate first on that. Your lightweight application server always contain a web container. Okay, and when we talk about, let me do a side by side comparison. When we talk about the enterprise application server, okay, and let me give some example. You have a Oracle WebLogic server, IBM WebSphere, JBoss, or you can say a flavor JBoss EAP, and the open source version is Wildfly, right? EAP is from Red Hat. Okay, so these are certain examples of your application servers. So what is the difference here when we talk about, when we compare it with the lightweight application server? The first is it contain the web container, just like we have for the lightweight application server. Along with that, it has the EJB container. Now, if you do a side-by-side comparison of your application server, lightweight application server, and your enterprise application server, okay, the one of the difference that you are seeing here, your lightweight application server has only web containers, and your enterprise application server contain the web container, and along with that, it contain the EJB containers as well. That means your enterprise application server has one more container, which is the EJB containers. So now, what exactly web containers can do? Your web containers can execute servlets plus JSPs. Okay, so that means we can achieve certain kind of a dynamic functionalities. As I said, you may have a backend database, okay, and that may you have some client side components like servlets, where you may be taking the input from the user, okay, and then based on that input you are reaching to your database, and then you are executing certain kind of a queries, and that the data you are reflecting on the web page of the client. Okay, so that kind of functionalities you can achieve with the help of web containers, which support your servlets and JSPs. Okay, that means if you have a website, okay, which is developed on your HTML, CSS, which contain the multiple images, video clip, audio files, along with that servlets and JSPs, then you can go for the lightweight application server. Okay, so that means you have some dynamic functionalities, okay, that you can achieve with the help of web container, or you can say with the help of lightweight application server. So Tomcat, Jetty, under 2. So these are required if you have a website which contain your servlet and JSPs along with the static contents, right? So that means this web server support your static contents. So this lightweight application server, it support all of your static contents, the features that you have in a web server. Along with that, since it has a web container, so it support the servlet but JSPs as well, right? And plus we can mention as a static contents, okay, and then plus you can achieve certain kind of a dynamic functionalities as well. Now if I come to enterprise application server, so as I said, it has a web container along with that EJB container, both container, right? So that means if it has the web container, that means it automatically has all the functionalities of your lightweight application server, which we have discussed here, right? So as I said, we have web container which support your GSP, servlet, and static contents, right? So that means here your enterprise application has web container. That means it has a complete functionality of a lightweight application server. But on top of that, it has one more functionality, or you can say container, which is called the EJB container. That means you are getting one more functionality, few more functionality with the help of EJB container. So now what all are the functionalities? So initially, if you remember, we have discussed about the Java applications. We have two categories, some basic Java and advanced Java. Okay, so these servlet and JSPs can be categorized as the basic Java. And when we come to the advanced Java, then the advanced Java, we develop the applications and EJBs, enterprise Java beans. Okay, so enterprise Java beans are the advanced Java which we use to execute the business functionalities. Okay, business functionality in the sense, for example, if you have an organization like a financial organization, maybe you have a banking organization, okay, then you have a certain your internal business processes. For example, if someone is going to open the account from your website, okay, then you have multiple logics that need to be executed in the backend. You will first take the complete data of the particular person. You will do a lot of validations, and then it will go to the account department where it will open the account, and along with that it has to go to the multiple other internal departments as well for executions of the certain kind of a business logics, right? So these kind of a business logics that execute at the server end where you have deployed the application, okay, for that you need the EJBs, enterprise Java beans, which is called the advanced Java. Okay, so if you are have this kind of a requirement where you need the server side business functionalities to be executed, for that we develop our applications in the EJBs, enterprise Java beans. Okay, so that means here we have a requirement of the web container. Along with that, we have a EJB container. Okay, this web container is required to deploy our web application or web interface that your end users are going to access. For example, I have given you an overview of a banking finance system. Okay, so in a banking system, whenever a user access any of the banking website using the browser, that means they have the web applications as well, right? That's why they are getting the web page on the screen. So that means you need a web application. Along with that, you need the functionality of the EJB containers, where once the request has been received from the browser of the user, it gets executed in the backend, right? And along with that, once you are executing any kind of a code using the EJB containers or the web containers, then it may need to connect to the backend database for the data, user data, or for any kind of a data that is required for your application, right? So now what we are seeing here, if you compare all these three categories here, what is the major difference we are seeing here? Web server, it serves only the static contents, right? It doesn't execute any of the business logic. And even if you have a servlet or JSPs, you can't use the web server for your website. It acts as a reverse proxy for diverting the request to the backend servers. We can use it for SSL termination, where we can configure the SSL at the web server level, so we don't need to configure the SSL in the backend application servers. We can use it for security, right? Because we don't want to expose our application to the outer world, so we can use the a web server in the front just for the redirection. That means just for as a reverse proxy to redirecting the request to the backend application servers. Okay, we don't even have a static contents here. Everything we have deployed on our web server. right? Because our on our application server, because our application server has the functionality of a web server as well. Okay, so we can deploy our website along with the business code on our application servers. So here we are going to use only the web server only as a reverse proxy. So example, we have a Apache web server, we have Nginx, Microsoft IIS, right? And when we come to application server, so that specifically it contains the web containers. That means it has a functionality of the servlet and JSPs along with serving the static contents. So it provides certain kind of a dynamic functionalities, right? And when we develop the application, our web application, okay, we deploy it as a WAR file. So this WAR file is a web application. Okay, this WAR file we can deploy in the lightweight application server. Okay, you can't deploy it in a web server, right? And when we come to the enterprise server, it contains the web container. Along with that, it has the EJB container. That means it can execute the code which has been written in the advanced Java, which is a server-side code which execute on the server side. Okay, so here, as I said, you can combine your application, web application, along with your server-side component which has been designed in the advanced Java. So this could be a jar files or this could be an EAR files. So when we deploy our applications in enterprise application, okay, in the web application servers, so you may have a WAR file, you may have a jar file, and you may have a EAR file. So this EAR file is the enterprise application, okay, which you can refer as an the applications that has been developed in the EJBs. Okay, and this also contain your WAR files as well. So as I said, you may have a website, okay, and then website will connect to the servers and then it will execute the business logic for your organization. So in your enterprise business, you may have the WAR files, jar files, and ER files, all kind of a files that you will have in the enterprise application server, because it is going to serve as a web container plus EJB container. So you want to use all of the functionalities of your application server. So one of the important word that we learned here is about the enterprise application server. So one of the word that you may get confused about the enterprise. What exactly is the enterprise application server? So we know about what is lightweight because it has only web container, which is has a functionality of servlet and JSPs. When we talk about the enterprise application server, then we can execute the business logic which is developed in the EJB with the help of EJB container as well, right? That is supported by your application server. But what is the meaning of enterprise? So this enterprise means simply connected world or the connected applications. Okay, so now we are not in a world where we are running a solo application within our organization. We need a connection with the multiple applications across the organization or maybe outside the organization. Within organization, you may have a lot of different kind of departments. You may need a connections or integrations with the multiple applications within your organizations. Or maybe if you are running a business which is enterprise business, which where you have a dependency on multiple vendors, okay, then you need to connect or integrate each and every vendor with your application, right? For example, if we talk about the e-commerce, so there are a lot of business partners are involved in the e-commerce, right? And they has to be integrated within a single application. That means if we suppose we book an order online from the e-commerce website, okay, the order is triggered, then the application need to inform the delivery partners, and right, and e-commerce has a tie up with the multiple delivery partners. Those are the third party organizations, and for the logistics, right? And then they have to update their inventory. Then they have integration with the payment banks, right, for to enable the payment functionalities. Along with that, they may have a multiple vendors, okay, maybe for the product delivery, for to making the product to be available, okay. So they may have an integration with the multiple vendors. So there are a lot of kind of a third party integrations as well in a single application. Okay, so in such an world where we have multiple partners, multiple trading partners, or multiple departments are integrated with each other, okay, so that is called an enterprise application. So what exactly happening here? There are a lot of information that is getting pass or flow between the different departments and between different trading partners and at the real time. Now, what are the other features that your application server, enterprise application support? The one we have learned about the EJB container. So apart from the web container, it has the EJB container, so we can deploy our enterprise Java Beans applications as well in our enterprise application servers, right? Now, along with that, it has a lot of more functionalities which is not available in your lightweight application server along with the web server. Okay, the first one is the high availability and clustering. High availability and clustering. Even though we can extend the number of lightweight application servers or maybe the web servers according to our requirement. For example, in your environment, you can have a 4, 5, 6, 10, and 20 or any number of web servers in parallel, which can act as a reverse proxy. Okay, and similarly, you can have a multiple number of lightweight application servers in parallel. Okay, which provide you the high availability, but along with that, you have a clustering feature as well in your enterprise application server, and this clustering feature support multiple things. Okay, one of the example is failover. Okay, so that means whenever a request is getting served by your any of the backend application server, if that server get crash in the backend, then request get failover to the other application server. Okay, so the connection to the end user will not get interrupted. This is one of the example of the failover functionality which is available in your enterprise application server. Okay, along with that, you have a session failover capabilities. Okay, so whenever we are connected to any of the website, then a lot of different kind of a session data is there. For example, in an e-commerce website, when we add multiple items to our cart, okay, then there are a lot of different session data is there in our session which contain our the items that we have added in the cart. Right. So if in case in the backend application server get crash in between to which your session is connected, okay, there is a chance that you may lose all of the data which you have in your session. Right. So if that is the situation, then your enterprise application can failover your session to the other running server along with the session data. Okay, so your session will not get interrupted in between. Along with that, you have a JMS functionalities. Okay, for the asynchronous communication with the third party applications. Okay, which can hold the messages in between, and then it can forward the message to the target application. So JMS functionality is not available in any of your lightweight application servers or the web servers. Okay, along with that, your enterprise applications support the transactions. Okay, so that means, as I said, you may have a business execution, business functionality are executing, which has been developed in using the EJBs containers. Okay, and maybe you have a lot of transactions are involved in your applications. So if you take the example of e-commerce or the banking financial institutes, you can consider the kind of a transactions that is happening on the daily basis. There are n number of uncountable number of transactions happening on the daily basis, where you need the multiple features like the execution of transactions, then failover of your transactions as well, recovery of your transactions as well. For example, if any of the transactions get failed in between, then how you can enable the recovery of the transactions. So these kind of functionalities are not supported by any of your lightweight application server or any of your web server. Okay, along with that, there are a lot of features. One of the example is your data source. So to increase the performance of your application, we have a data source which is the ready to use connections of the connection pool of the database connections. So whenever application need the connection to the database, it can pick the ready to use connection from the data source. It don't need to create the connection at the runtime when the request is coming. Okay, for example, if you are in a lightweight application servers, okay, then you may have to define the connectivity in your code. Okay, and whenever you create a connection to the database, then dynamically at the runtime it create the connection which degrade the performance of your application. Right, but here in enterprise application server, we have a data source which contain ready to use connections from the database, so which increase the performance. And along with that, there are a lot of other features are available in the data source as well, which increase the overall performance of your applications. Okay, and along with that, there are a lot of performance related tunings that you can perform. Okay, or that is available in your enterprise application server only, which is not available in the lightweight application server or any of the web server. So in nutshell, this is the side-by-side comparison of your web server, your lightweight application server, enterprise application server. So now, if someone is asking about the Apache web server, your Nginx or Microsoft IaaS application server, then you are aware about them, what exactly is the web server and where we exactly use them. And when we are talking about the lightweight application server, for example, Tomcat, and where I see the lot of engineers confused between the Tomcat and WebLogic or maybe WebSphere and then Wildfly or JBoss. Where exactly we use the Tomcat and where exactly we use all these different application servers. So now you have a complete clarity that this is a lightweight application server and these are your enterprise application server which contain your EJB containers. Along with that, there are multiple features that is not available in your lightweight application server. Right, so this is the difference between the different kind of a servers that is available along with the introduction of the WebLogic application server. Thank you.